Today on episode 8 of the Sean and Bo Show, increased political pressure on the Washington Redskins to change their name. We'll have the very latest.
And USA is still alive in the World Cup.
Plus, Richard Sherman says he's going to boycott the local media. I'll explain why he's mad.
And I'm going to let you know why you should be destroying your Rudy DVD.
It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show, episode 8. Thank you very much for telling a friend about the show. We rely on you to spread the show, so tell a friend, a coworker. We're on iTunes. You can check out older episodes on seanandboshow.podomatic.com. I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host Bo Greer, and we might not have soccer fever, but it's at least soccer food poisoning.
Hey, it's something, isn't it, man? I was in a garage watching that match between us and Portugal. And I want to tell you, I ran out when we scored that first goal. When we scored the go-ahead goal, the neighbor and I were shouting and running in the streets, had the flags out. It was fun. It was a great experience. And quite frankly, I cannot wait until Thursday night and we get to do it all again against Germany.
Not Thursday night, my friend. We got to wake up at 10 a.m. our time to see that game. Yeah.
Oh, it's not Thursday night. I did not look at the time on that one yet.
And noon Eastern, so 10 a.m. our time. But
okay.
I'm going to at least catch a good 25 minutes.
It's gonna.
No, I'll have to admit though, this is really the most soccer I've ever watched in my entire life. Mm-hmm. It's something about like the passion of the fans and like the nationalistic pride.
Yeah.
And the fact that there is nothing else on that is just captivated.
That they have picked the perfect time to put the FIFA World Cup on. ESPN and the producers and whoever put this all together, they did a great job, because when we're sitting there, we were talking about fantasy football draft, talking about Cowboys, my neighbor's a Chiefs fan, all the little things going on in the NFL, but there you go, we had football on the TV cheering for our team. And I thought it was real interesting to see how many Americans are at these games. They say we are the largest represented country, and it was actually a video I pulled on YouTube that showed the soccer fanatics from the U.S. and how they travel around the world following Team USA. And that really got me going, because I was thinking, it's hard to go out there on your own. It's real easy for me to go to a Cowboys game. It's the biggest party in Texas every Sunday.
Right.
But to say, hey, guys, let's go to Honduras because Team USA is going to be playing a warm-up round, you're dedicated. And my hat's off to those group of soccer fanatics out there representing.
Bo just literally made a gesture taking his cap off for you guys.
Cap off.
You know, one of the cool things I see a lot of and saw in these World Cup soccer games is kind of a level of sportsmanship, and like when there's a foul call on a player, of course, a lot of the times they'll roll their eyes, but oftentimes they'll like go up to the ref and be like, yeah, good call, and give him a high five.
Yeah.
And you don't see that in other sports. You're not going to see that at a LeBron, I can promise you that. But as we know, U.S. tied Portugal, so they're currently tied in their group with Germany. Now, this is where it gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, here we go.
I really tried to do my best to get the facts here as to the scenarios in play. So if the U.S. wins flat out or ties on Thursday against Germany, they advance. If the U.S. loses, they can still advance. However, Ghana has a -1 point differential. Mm-hmm. So that would mean that the U.S. would have to, let's say the U.S. lost by 1 point. If Ghana won by more than 2 points, then they would advance. Okay. Portugal has a -4 differential. And being as how this is soccer and games end in ties, and there's all kinds of quirky rules. Check this out. If it's tied, here's the tie-breaking system. If both the point differential and the actual points in the group are equal, it goes, what team has the most total goals in the World Cup thus far? If that's tied, it goes to total opponent wins in the World Cup up to that point. And if that's tied, they draw a name out of a hat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They totally take it off the field and it ends up in a top hat. That is awesome.
I wonder if they would televise that, or if they turns out it was the U.S., guys. Go figure.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ghana.
And it just can't be a normal hat. It has to be like a Long John Silver's hat that you'd put on a little kid. They got to sell some sponsorship. Like maybe it's a king from a Burger King that the kids wear when they get a Happy Meal from that place. You got to sell some ads.
Now, as we mentioned on the show before, Bo played Division I football for the University of New Mexico. And the other day he texted me and he said, do not let me forget. I've got a great story for this show. It involves Rudy, the Rudy. Rudy.
Oh, boy. America, get you a hot cup of tea, whatever calms you down, because this story, it's going to hit that bone in your body that just makes you say, well, that ain't right. And
you better watch yourself, though. You know I'm a Notre Dame fan. Don't break my heart.
I love my Irish, too. I was born and raised in southern Indiana. If you haven't listened to the show, I am a Hoosier. And a story like Rudy Ruettiger, that was very inspirational to a guy like me. I wasn't heavily recruited. I always had an impression that I was going to have to make my way onto the Division I football field. And when I seen the Rudy movie, I read the story, I thought to myself, that's who I'm going to, follow. That's how I'm going to live my life. I'm going to work hard in school. I'm going to do everything on the field because guys like Rudy didn't get the opportunity that I had.
I'll sleep in a janitor's closet if I have to.
In the boiler room. I'm good, coach. But, so I'm in Garden City, ladies and gentlemen. I went to junior college in Garden City, and this is my sophomore season. So the first year, we had our guest speaker come in, and it was none other than a Cowboy legend, Mr. Barry Switzer, won us a Super Bowl. You know all about him, won a national championship at Oklahoma. So just to kind of set the story up, I'm going to tell you how Mr. Switzer treated us. Comes into town, he signs every piece of Cowboys memorabilia my dad could mail to me, including trash cans.
Hey, Coach, can you sign this
can?
can?
Hey, Mr. Switzer, I know you're wearing a $7,000 suit right now, but this trash can with tobacco spit on the side, I need your John Hancock right here. So he
glamorous.
Was awesome. This guy, Barry Switzer, wanted to be so personable that he wouldn't meet with our whole football team. He would take us in groups, 4 and 5 at a time, so he could answer our questions.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm sitting there holding the Super Bowl ring, putting it on my finger. Like, when are you ever going to get to do that? So, okay, here we are next year. Coach, who's our motivational speaker? I can't wait. Is it Barry Switzer again? No. You guys ever heard of Rudy? Yeah, the movie. Rudy Ruettiger? He's coming. I'm ready. I got my Rudy DVD. I got some Notre Dame stuff. I'm ready to go. So he comes and he's talking. Everything's fine. Rudy gives us the whole backstory. And then everything breaks, ladies and gentlemen. There's kind of a calm, and everybody's looking at Rudy like, okay, so can we approach him? So me and the guys on the team, I'm a captain, I approached him first. And I'm like, Mr. Ruettiger, would you mind getting a picture taken so I can have it? And he's like, oh, that's fine, but let me get my book. And I was like, his book? And he pulls out a book, and it has payment receipts in it. His pictures are $35 a piece.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He's going to charge a college kid $35 for a picture. Now, keep in mind, my football coach, Coach Larson, is the greatest guy on earth, played a little pro football back in the day. He's standing probably about 5 feet away, and he can't really make out what Rudy's telling us. But then his wife is in the crowd. She hears it, goes and gets Coach Larson. All hell breaks loose, man. Get out of here. You guys aren't getting a picture. We just paid him money to come in here and talk to you guys, which I can only imagine was over $10K, because I just looked up on a website that Rudy charges anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 to do speeches. Then he was going to turn around and charge a room full of broke college kids,
Athletes,
$35 a picture. Coach was like, no, he basically kicked him out because we were ready to fight Rudy. Like, he started acting like a jerk. Like, the whole situation got out of control, Sean. Like, people were just like, okay, we need to really calm down and think about this. Garden City Community College cannot be responsible for the murder of Rudy Ruettiger in Western Kansas.
College football team kills Rudy. The story at 6.
So then, naturally, a bunch of punk kids as we are, we're all like, people start chanting Rudy. And I remember saying, I shouted, oh, I hope they make a movie about me if I only play one play of Division I football. Oh, I was letting the man have it.
By the way, we just watched, we found it on YouTube, the actual play. I'd never seen it. I'm a Notre Dame fan. The actual play that Rudy got into the game was 1975 against Georgia Tech. And oh my God, after watching that, I can't believe they made a movie out of it. It was nothing.
And so here I am working my tail off Saturday. It's summertime. People are drinking beer. I work for a distributor. and I hear Rudy Ruettiger receiving praise on a local radio station who I'm not going to name. I mean, they are just cleaning the guy's feet basically through the telephone and just telling him how he is the walking, like he's the second coming of Christ almost. It was making me sick, man. And I'm thinking in my head, this guy tried to charge me $35 for a picture in Garden City, Kansas. So that's when I text you, right? Go home, Sean. I'll start doing a little homework because I don't want to bash the guy. Turns out he was sued in 2008 because he was going around the country telling people he was going to start the Rudy Ruettiger Never Give Up energy drink company. Raised about $11 million. Company never did anything.
Huh.
Yeah, old federal government stepped in, and luckily he only has to pay back about $386,000. So he made out like a bandit, if you ask me. On top of that, there's stories of women. There's stories of other high schools and places where he's went to speak, and he has just done people wrong. So you're hearing it right here on the Sean and Bo Show. I could care less about Rudy. If you own the DVD like I used to when I met him, I went home, broke it in half, I urinated on it, and me and my friends lit it on fire. I remember that. Like, we were so angry. We watched that movie all the time. We're college football players.
Has Rudy ever actually had a job?
No.
Or has he just rode that story into the ground and
lived in Las Vegas, Nevada at that time?
Oh, just signing out like Pete Rose in it?
Pete Rose in it. Casino to casino. If anybody will let him stand there and do autographs, give me $5,000, I'll be there. You know, he's one of those guys. He's a real loser.
Well, speaking of college football, we actually have a good story. You were just telling me about this before we came on to the air, Bo. USC is guaranteeing 4-year scholarships now, really?
Yeah, it was interesting to see USC's getting out in front of all these lawsuits. As you may know in an earlier episode, I explained that I'm trying to get involved with the EA Sports lawsuit, and there's a current lawsuit against the NCAA that kind of stems from that. And it's about using the player's likeness on video games to sell jerseys, etc.
And by the way, I just checked on eBay. Folks, if you would like to play as Bo or against Bo, if you want to burn him and get to that quarterback,
good luck.
All it's going to cost you, 99 cents on eBay for NCAA 06. And you said you're also featured in 07, right?
Yes, in 07. And, you know, I was actually, I had the video games out today, and my son, he got a real kick out of that. And I was trying to explain to him how the last game that he got, me and my son, we actually, every year those games would come out, we were the first people to go get them. We love playing the college football games. So the last one we had for 2014 will be the last game. They're not making it anymore. And I was trying to explain to my son, if I can get a piece of this lawsuit money, Dad will be responsible for building up a video game and bringing it down. Awesome stuff, you know. But no.
So you're meeting with an attorney this week, right?
Yes, tomorrow I am meeting with an attorney supposed to specialize in these types of settlements, and we'll see what he's talking about. Hopefully I can go after some 4-figure money.
I want 200,000, but I'll sell it out of the court for $20.
Yeah. Yeah, hey, this is the way I'll position it. If I could ever talk to somebody from EA Sports, because you know I care about the show, Sean, I just tell them, you can give me money or you can sponsor the show for 50 years. How much are we worth a year, you think? Right now, about $20?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, see, EA Sports, you're getting it on the ground level, man. Ground floor right here. But no, it was just good to see USC is going to give out 4-year scholarships. No longer will players be leaving mother and father's nest wondering if they blow out their ACL, will they be sleeping on mom and dad's couch going to the local community college. Now these scholarships are going to be guaranteed because if programs like USC are going to be first to do it, you're not going to show up at some recruit's house in Southern California and tell him that he's going to be the man, and his mom and dad look at you and say, oh, yeah, by the way, the guy from USC just left and said that the scholarship's guaranteed for 4 years. You can't compete against that.
Yeah, and it's a copycat type of situation. I mean, if USC is, in fact, going to go and do that, they're going to be at all the rest of the teams, like you were saying, are going to be at such a disadvantage recruiting that, you know, it's going to spread like wildfire. And I like this. I hope it stops these teams from signing like 12-year-olds where it's like you don't even know if that kid's going to be interested in the sport by the time they're college age. But it doesn't stop, you know, Florida State from doing it. A lot of SEC teams do that too. So maybe if nothing else, it'll stop that. And also, like you were saying, if a kid gets injured, they should still get their education. They should still get what they were promised. It's not like they were trying to get injured out there on the football field. So
it's like Ed O'Bannon was saying. He's right now leading the lawsuit against the NCAA. He played college basketball for UCLA. And he was saying this in the article, and I had to kind of think. He's like, yeah, I was a basketball player and a student secondarily. It wasn't that I was brought there for my academics. And I'm like, oh, that's so stupid. That's a cop-out. And I'm like, wait a minute, Bo, you live that. I remember they used to give you a list of classes, and they'd say, you can pick from this half of the sheet because it won't interfere with practice. Everything on this half of the sheet you can't do because
you're not a student athlete. You're an athlete that happens to be enrolled at university.
And if what you want to do, like for example, and I've seen this all the time, the guys who are there trying to become doctors, dentists, physical therapists who really need to go to some bio classes and do some things that require them to spend 4 hours on campus, they basically have to put their whole career on hold. Ran into a guy, Nick Spiegel, who he went to the Browns, got drafted by the Browns in the late round. He's becoming a chiropractor in Dallas right now. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him about that, but I often wondered, like, why didn't you go down that route when we were playing football? Would it have conflicted? I'd like to know if he's doing that now because he has more time and football's not in the way.
Yeah. So another college football news, some SEC coaches are already smack talking. Is that right, Bo? Is this Spurrier?
Spurrier is talking about Saban. It was funny,
old Nicky
though.
Satan.
Because you remember where I told you the story was on NFL.com. And I just think that shows how weak the season is right now. There's nothing going on. Like, can somebody in the NFL take their helmet off and slap somebody in the head and start a fight? Give us something to talk about. There is nothing going on.
It's a crying shame is what it is. It's a crying shame.
I don't know about you, but I'm trying to remember back to years previous. There were some stories right now. There was either a rookie hazing incident. There was somebody with a DUI. Have these guys finally grown up? Did Goodell get to them? What are we, 6-7 years of Goodell? How many years of Goodell?
Yeah, about that.
Okay, 6-7 years of regime, it starts to work. Put a principal in a school.
I think it's social media that's really done it. It's like they know that they can't get away with nada these
Nothing.
days. It's going to be on Twitter. Somebody's going to have a camera phone. So it's in the past where you might have been able to butter up a cop here and then and slide out of that situation. It's not happening these days. But there's still time, Bo.
Yeah.
There's still time that somebody's going to shoot themselves with a gun in a nightclub.
Either way, this is what we have to work with, and I thought it was funny because here's old Mr. Steve Spurrier, the old ball coach. He's talking to one of the local yokels there in South Carolina, and he asked him something along the lines of Nick Saban in Alabama, because they're always trying to compare Spurrier's work habits with everyone else's. And this goes all the way back to, remember when he was in the NFL? People used to say he didn't put in enough time. He's golfing too much and all. Let Spurrier be Spurrier. The man wins everywhere he goes. But he took a shot and turns around and says, well, last time I checked, Saban's only won 2 SECs. 2 SECs in 8 years. Whoa.
Wrecked.
Yeah, that lets you know right there that you ain't really that much of a big deal to them guys. The SEC is a tough conference to win, but yet we have anointed Saban kind of like the second coming of Bear Bryant. He only has 2 titles.
How's that possible? It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't even seem right, does it? He only has 2 SEC titles, and then here's where the big blow comes in. So this is my favorite part. He says, so to me, is Saban getting max potential out of those boys? Basically telling every recruit, if you're talking to Nick Saban right now, he might not be the guy to develop your talent because he's only won 2 SEC titles with the #1 recruiting class in the SEC, which is the equivalent to every first-round draft pick. Look at his draft picks, dude. Yeah. And you should win every SEC title. There shouldn't be an excuse. I'm sorry. No excuses for that. Sorry. Excuse me, people.
You kind of sounded like, what was that dude's name from that horror movie? Candyman.
Oh, God.
It's just bad allergies, apparently. But.
Candyman. Oh, you want to talk about a movie you should never watch while you're a little out of it. You know, if you know what, catch my drift. Buzzed, high. You do not want to watch that movie. Oh, my gosh. I've been to those projects, by the way.
Really?
You know that? A dude from Chicago.
It's in Chicago, right? Cabrini Green?
Stupidest thing I've ever done. Surprised I'm still alive. Probably should have been murdered that day. That was the most dangerous thing I've ever done in my life, but we just had to see them. You never seen a black man so afraid in a ghetto scenario. And I was with a white Irish guy from Chicago, and he's taking me over there, and I'm like, let's get out. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Don't do things like that, bro. You're gonna get shot.
I'm going to get shot trying
All
to
right,
see
coming
something.
up in the next segment, Richard Sherman is real upset with the local media in Seattle, and for good reason. I'll tell you about that. Plus, Bo and I are going to be talking about whether or not the Washington Redskins should change their name and all the latest details in that continuing saga. It's coming up on the Sean and Bo Show.
Thank you for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. We're happy you keep tuning in, people, but come on. I know you can help us out. Help us get some sponsors.
You got a small business? You want to promote your website, podcast? We don't care.
Maybe it's an idea you have. Maybe you have the idea that can put Sean and I over the top. Contact us. Let us know who you are, because we definitely want to know who you are. And Sean, tell them how they can get a hold of us.
The address is seanandboshow@gmail.com. That's SEANANDBOSHOW@gmail.com. And we got some big things in the works here for the show. Right now we're working on our very own exclusive website. That should be coming soon. So we really need some shekels out of you, folks. So again, if you've got a small business, a website, a podcast, or if you just have a good idea for us, give us an email, follow us on Twitter, same handle, Sean and Bo Show. And if you'd like to check out other episodes, subscribe on iTunes, and also check out seanandboshow.podomatic.com.
Finding Bigfoot ain't cheap. Welcome back, all you Rudy haters.
Yeah, you might have caused some hate with that Rudy's a jerk story, Bo. It's all right, though. I still love my Irish. All right, so Richard Sherman is quite mad at the local press in Seattle, so much so that he has announced that he's boycotting all local media. And that's a big deal at this time of the year.
Explain that to me. How did this happen?
Okay, this is a clear-cut example of the media just straight up acting a fool. Richard Sherman bought himself a nice house. In fact, it was the former house of NBA star Jamal Crawford.
Wow.
So the paper, I think it was the Seattle Times, did this big story on the purchase of this house where they detailed all the home's features, including the square footage, the number of bedrooms, the $2.31 million price tag, and the street address.
Oh, gosh.
So fresh off of a Super Bowl win, when you have all these football fanatics around the city of Seattle, all of a sudden they publish his street address. So now he's got autograph hounds. He's got people wanting to hang out. He's got probably crazy people. I mean, they're crazy stalkers out there.
Yeah. Does he have kids? I mean, I'd be afraid.
Michael Crabtree is going to be cruising the block. It's going to be a mess. And this is just dumb. I mean, yeah, it's public record, but you don't do that. I mean, especially it's the Seattle paper.
Yeah.
He's your guy. Protect him.
And just like you say, it's public record. There are so many people out there that have no clue on how to access those public records. So don't do those jerks a service by just like, hey, this is where a really rich guy lives. What was his name? Played for the Redskins. We always forget about that. They went up in his house with his mom, with his wife and his kid laying there, and he died. Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
People forget about that. Like, that is real. It happens. When people know you make money in the public eye, you need security and you need to hide. It happened to a famous TV personality in England. She lived out in the middle of nowhere, was held hostage in her home for like 6 days. They finally drove her down to an ATM where she was able to withdraw an insane amount of money. I didn't even know you could get this much money out of an ATM. Gave it to them and they were on their way. After that, she hired security. So if I'm Richard Sherman, I'm ticked off about this. I'm finding the editor of the paper's address and putting it in somewhere, putting it on the back of my helmet for the first 6 games. This is where the editor of the paper lives. He's got money too.
Another big story in the NFL that's been going for quite a while is the controversy surrounding the Washington Redskins and their name and their logo and all of that. Earlier, we saw the U.S. Patent Office. They canceled 6 trademarks belonging to the Redskins, saying that they're offensive to Native Americans, so that they're void. So that's kind of another topic. I kind of think that's a
stretch.
That's a little stretch for the patent office to get involved. But I think what you're seeing here is as much political pressure as can be mustered against Daniel Snyder to just get him to change it, do it on his own. I mean, I believe they had tried this before a few years back and it was appealed. So I don't think this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. I just think it's kind of an ongoing process of every way they can leverage political momentum, and get more voices involved in this. The attorney for the team spoke out about that, saying, quote, "We've seen this story before, and just like last time, today's ruling will have no effect at all on the team's ownership of and right to use the Redskins name and logo." And, of course, they're going to appeal. So I personally think that this is kind of a dumb argument. The proponents of keeping the name say it's tradition, it's heritage of this team. We have obligations to our fans, to our season ticket holders, to keep it the same. Blah blah blah, and that's just such a dumb idea. And it's for whatever reason you see this argument brought about when it comes to race and racism a lot. And not to be totally hyperbolic, but you know what else was an American institution and a heritage for a long time in this country? Slavery.
Yes.
And when the dissolution of that came around, I mean, I'm sure there were people saying, "Oh, this is an American heritage. This is a staple of America." And it's like, just because you've been doing something wrong for X number of years doesn't justify the continuance of that. So, the question we should be asking ourselves is this name and logo offensive to Native Americans? And I don't mean every Native American, because living here in New Mexico, I'm sure you've seen, we have a large Native population.
Yes.
And some Native people wear Redskins
That's
gear.
what I was getting ready to bring up.
But some of the Native people are offended. And it's, not everybody's going to be on the same page with everything. So it's not, to me, it's not a question of, is this going to cause, lack of revenue for the Redskins? Probably not, because people would buy new jerseys. But it should be, is this offensive to some people? And if it is, change it. We're way too far along to be holding on to racist ideology and slurs of that nature. I just think it's a dumb argument. I don't understand how, also this week there was a few state senators that formed let me get this right, the Redskins Pride Caucus.
Yes.
Which is it's an organization that's set off to provide a voice for Redskins fans and season ticket holders, and to, I guess, just kind of clamor and argue that this should not get changed ever. And I think probably one of the main things that's holding back certain groups of Native American people who are offended by this is, unlike a lot of other groups, races, etc., there's not like a figurehead that everybody in America knows, is sort of the, for lack of a better word, ambassador of the Native American people. There's not like one voice.
Probably the most notable Native American was the individual on Predator. He later became a Wyoming senator. That is no joke. Every one of those guys on the movie Predator served in office. You should look it up.
You know who was a bad dude? Jim Thorpe.
Yeah, Jim Thorpe was a bad dude.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, where the town of Jim Thorpe was, and they have a monument for him and everything like that. And when you look at that guy's achievements and just how good he was at so many sports and so dominant, I mean, you don't really see athletes that are that great at that many things anymore.
Oh no, you'll never see that again.
That was an athlete.
He was a beast. You bring up a good point. We live in a country where we can't go around just satisfying a few. We do have to satisfy everybody. Unfortunately, we hear these arguments when it comes to even the Florida State Seminoles, it comes to the Utah Utes, and those organizations are partnershiped with the tribes that they represent, and they still get flack from other organizations. So I'm not surprised that the Redskins are where they are. Daniel Snyder, I'm all about keeping things the same. I really could care less, because I'm a Cowboys fan. I wish you guys would change your names to Last Place and just stay there. That'd be fine with me. But we're going to have to see a new team in the NFC East. This is going to ruin the rivalry for me. I have been watching the Cowboys play the Native Americans. I'm not going to say it. I almost said it. You almost got me to say the I word.
Speaking of bad mascots, bad logos, bad team names, I saw an awesome T-shirt. I think we should both get a couple of these.
What is it?
It's kind of in the styling of the Cleveland Indians caricatured
Oh,
logo.
you said it.
Except it's the Cleveland Caucasians.
Oh, God.
And instead of like a feather behind the guy's head, it has like a big dollar sign. It's like a white guy. It's, the Caucasians is like in the same font as the Cleveland
I
Indians.
want that shirt.
Yeah.
Get them. Order me one. But, the reason I'm being funny with the I word and the word Indian is because me and my wife were local here in Albuquerque, where you think people would know better than to be sitting in a restaurant at 10 a.m. eating breakfast, saying that word loud. She was commenting on what we're talking about. And it was hilarious because it just shows who we are as a country and people. She's sitting there and I'm being nosy. Did you hear about those Washington Redskins, honey? Talking to her husband and her grandkids. Yeah, that's good that they're finally going to take that name away from them. Oh, I just can't believe that they've been able to step on those Indians for all these years. You know how many Indians I know? And used Indians probably 36 times in the conversation. And I looked at my wife and I said, you think when she was hanging out with some of those Indians that she knew, one of them would have said, we're called Native Americans. So I just had to get that out there because this is, like, when I think of lawsuits like that, I think of a bunch of people like that lady who really doesn't know what's going on. She maybe has the smallest percentage of Native American blood in her, like a lot of us do, yet she's ready to wave the flag and tear down Daniel Snyder, and it's just the country we live in.
And I think what makes part of this, it gives me kind of a headache thinking about, because you're going to make money if you change the name.
Yeah.
If you're a diehard Skins fan, and they have a new logo and a new jersey and new colors, you're going to buy that gear. You're going to buy the flag for your car. You're going to buy that jersey. So part of me being, kind of a little cynical about this is wondering if Daniel Snyder is just biding his time until they absolutely force him to change it. He knows he's going to make money. So if he's like, oh, all right, my hands are tied, I guess we got to change it. Cha-ching! Maybe it's a ploy so that he doesn't anger the group of his fan base that likes the name and wants to keep it.
Yeah.
So he can kind of play both sides and still make his money, but also still kind of appease those fans. I don't know.
Me being the shark that I am, I've been looking at what actually happens with the name. So if the patent office is not going to renew, or the trademark office, whoever that is, doesn't renew that, could me and you get a printing press, print off a bunch of Redskins team tees and sell them officially?
Sweatshop in the garage, baby.
Let's do it. We got a couple years until he changes this name.
All right, coming up next on the Shaw DeBow Show, where is Carmelo going? We'll add some fuel to the fire of speculation. Also, Duncan announces where he's going to be next year, and Bo's got a new Bigfoot story, so can't wait to get to that. It's coming up next on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey everybody, thank you very much for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. One thing that we'd like to promote that doesn't directly affect us, but really affects all podcasts, is a patent troll that is currently suing Adam Carolla. If you don't know what patent trolls are, basically people buy up patents that have lapsed, and even though they didn't come up with the patent, they have no real ownership, they just bought it, they start suing people. And oftentimes it's like real stretched logic. Anyway, there's a patent troll who claims that any podcast is under his podcast, that he somehow patented anything serialized on the internet. So he's suing Adam Carolla, and Adam Carolla is fighting this guy. It costs a lot of money. Bo, I know you probably know a couple of patent trolls.
Yes.
They're out there, and they're just looking for money, and it's real sleazy how they operate. They base all of their operations, even though these people's companies, et cetera, aren't in Texas. I think it's like Lubbock or something like that. There's a judge there who's very lenient towards these patent trolls.
Yeah.
So it costs a lot of money for Carolla to fight this, even though Carolla is fairly wealthy. He is looking for people to donate. So we'd like to support that. If you would like to donate anything you can to help fight the patent troll, you can go to fundanything.com/patent troll. That's fundanything.com/patent troll. Back to the show. Hey folks, welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Well, as we've discussed, all that's really happening right now is the World Cup. NBA finals are over. Football's not yet started, but we are having some interesting NBA trade talks happening this year, specifically Carmelo. of the New York Knicks, who has opted out of the final year of his contract, and a lot of people are speculating whether or not he's going to remain with the Knicks or if he's going to bring his talents to a new city, like, say, Chicago. I asked our buddy Stephen Babb at the Bleacher Report what he thought about this, whether it was a ploy for more money or if he was legitimately going to look for another team, and he thinks that he's leaving. He thinks it's a foregone conclusion that he's gone.
Yeah, and things like this always show me the difference between a Midwestern city versus a city like New York, which is the city of all cities. LeBron James, hometown guy, tries to leave, causes the biggest uproar in Ohio State history. Melo, he's from the area. Nobody cares. No. They're like, oh, whatever. Go do your thing, Melo.
Yeah,
good luck.
Sort of expected.
Yeah.
He was making so much damn money playing for the Knicks anyway. I mean,
it was sad, though. I was really like, gosh, wouldn't that be a cool story? You go to Syracuse, win them a championship, go right down the road to the Garden and win the NBA Finals, but it just wasn't the right time.
Never got enough supporting cast around him. He's not going to do it by himself. Ask LeBron.
Yeah, you can't.
You got to have other pieces in place. So it seems like the likely landing spot is the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I see him there. Where else would Carmelo be a good fit right now?
Hopefully somewhere far away from the Indianapolis Pacers.
I wonder if he's considering Houston.
Yeah, Houston is something that when I was reading, everybody brings up the Dwight Howard immaturity issue. That Dwight Howard still isn't showing the signs of maturity that people want. And for Melo to go into that locker room, they're like, Melo will be choking him in 3 weeks. You know, he's like, dude, we can't play around right now. I'm trying to win a championship. I'm old, you know. So I don't think that one would work out. It just didn't seem like those two were good hanging buddies. And just being a brother from the street, me and my friends, we always talk about it like this. Melo's eyes look a little red in his interviews. Probably likes a little bit of the cannabis sativa. Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, there's some cannabis users too. Howard, maybe. Still a little weird. Not going to happen. LeBron, we know he's too clean to do anything. I'm still waiting on LeBron to fall apart like Woods on Thanksgiving morning because that dude is just too perfect. So when you do say what team he's going to go to, he's going to go around somebody that's kind of like him. They're going to be a little more into the hip-hop culture. They're not going to be the type of guys that are showing up early, leaving late. They're just going to show up, drop 45 points on you, and tell you, get better next time I see you. So, Bulls, I agree with you. Thibodeau, with a scorer, with what he already has in place, you can go ahead and write the Pacers out, write the Heat out as number 1 seeds. That's your number 1 seed next year if that happens.
You heard it here first. The straight dope from the mean streets of Indiana.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, you look at these players on TV, and I'm a grown man, and I know there's other grown men and women out there listening. I can tell when you got a little of the eye sauce going on there, buddy.
It's allergies.
It's allergies.
Come on, man. Also, not surprising this time around, rather than opting out, Duncan has opted in. Not too surprising because he's playing some of the best basketball of his entire career, if you look at the numbers, Bo.
$10 million, people. Why would you go anywhere? Your house is paid off. You've been living in San Antonio.
You already have your knife collection and nice display cases.
When you told me that about Duncan collecting knives, it is so perfect.
I can just picture him in a dark room, sitting under a lamp, or maybe one of those little monocle magnifying glasses, looking at his knives.
You think he names them after people he's beaten in the finals?
That is a nice
knife. Like, is there a LeBron knife? You know, like a D-Wade knife? I bet he does something like that. But either way, whatever he does, Mr. Popovich, hats off again. You have figured out how to make him more productive. I was so amazed to see that he is averaging 1 more rebound a game right now than he was in like the first 10 years of his career. And it's all about how Pop's managing.
It's time management. That's exactly what it is. Pop has mastered time management, knowing how hard he can push his players, which players need to rest. You know, he gets in trouble every single year, it seems like, for resting his starters in the regular season, but kiss the ring. You know?
If Popovich was a football coach, people would love him. Whenever you had football coaches that knew how to rest you, you jumped all over it because guys who could sympathize with how hard you're working, it was the weirdest thing. You worked harder.
And that's sort of usually a trait you find with coaches who are former players themselves, right?
Yeah.
If you're just kind of like an intellectual coach and you understand the X's and O's, but you've never actually played the game and you're kind of treating your players as you would in a video game, then you're going to be more likely to overplay players, not give them that rest, etc.
Charlie Wise,
Hey, man.
Man,
What is this, Notre Dame hate day, Bo?
yeah, it is. I am. Can somebody else from Notre Dame do something? No, I did agree with Joe Montana, though, because he was, gave me a lot of my fuel for the Rudy Ruettiger comments, his famous interview with Dan Patrick.
I love how Dan Patrick always references Rudy as a documentary.
He said, this was in quotes, he told Joe Montana when he's telling him about the play and how it didn't happen, they didn't clap. He looks at him and says, "You're ruining it for me." As if, the whole movie, you realize that you watched that whole movie and it was kind of like, okay, he's a college kid. He's getting smashed at football practice. He's not that good. His dad has a job at the mill. And then all of a sudden, one play and everybody's clapping and carrying him off the field at one of the most recognizable football fields ever constructed in the land. I mean, my Catholic church takes trips up there every year to pray and walk the football field.
Jesus.
Yeah. And Rudy gets a movie made about him. How many people have went through that university and done things on the football field and went on to become legends? Make a movie about Montana. And although his career wasn't that great at Notre Dame, what did he win, like 6 games?
He was great. No more Notre Dame talk, Bo. All right. Last story of today's show. As you know, folks, the Sean and Bo Show, our motto here is sports, entertainment, Bigfoot. And with that in mind, it's time for the obligatory...
Get the Bigfoot beer out.
Squatch beer.
The Squatch beer.
All right, Bo, what do you got for me?
All right, so, I'm laying around with the kids. We're just finished watching the Survivor Man video where he goes out looking for Bigfoot, or as us in the research field like to call him, Gigantopithecus.
That's right.
As soon as I heard the word Gigantopithecus, I was thinking I either have to get that tattooed on my body or some sort of T-shirt, because that is me now. I am Gigantopithecus.
I'm telling you, we need to start amassing a bunch of Bigfoot apparel if we're going to get the yokels in northern New Mexico to take us seriously.
Yes.
We are a scientific expedition. We're not here to drink beer and sit around and maybe wander into the forest looking for Bigfoot. No, we're scientists.
If you are like Sean and I, and you want to become Bigfoot researchers / experts in the field, I found a cool website, Sean. It's called www.bfro.net, stands for Bigfoot Researchers Organization.
BFRO.
BFRO.
Yeah.
Hey, you can go to BFRO. They have maps of sightings. They show you all the way down to the county, the date that the sighting was reported. So I'm going to take this knowledge. I'm going to put together one of those beautiful mind maps in the spare bedroom of my house where you have all these dots connecting things and little strings everywhere.
Pins and maps and yarn connecting them.
I'm just going to be in there for like 48 straight hours, like wearing the same clothes, and it'll look official. I'll film myself on YouTube, and I'm going to come up with a triangulation using the skills that they showed me at the University of New Mexico Criminology Department to tell you exactly where Bigfoot's going to be. And I'm telling you, you're going to hear it first here on this show, and you're going to see him first on this show when we finally get enough money to put the webcams up. Sponsors. We're going to find him. We're going to get some video. Sean and I are looking at spots to go to this summer. If you have any ideas of places to go in the Southwest and look for Gigantopithecus, I want to know. I want to find this guy. It's going to be our claim to fame, Sean.
And you told me that there was a recent sighting here in New Mexico outside Las Vegas, New Mexico. And it was in where you would expect Bigfoot to be.
Okay.
Behind a gas station.
Behind a gas station. So when I heard that, immediately I had to talk with my wife and figure out if I had been around the Las Vegas area recently. My wife has property up there with her family. We go up there and visit. There's a good chance I could have been behind that very gas station they're talking about. That's where I buy my beer when I go up there. Would not be surprised if somebody saw me taking a leak out back and they thought I was Gigantopithecus. But hey, either way.
It's funny looking at this site though that they've spotted him, and like there's this spot in New Mexico where Billy the Kid's from, Lincoln, and it's just barren desert down there, and of course, Bigfoot sightings, like he's hiding out in a Bigfoot cavern down there in the middle of nowhere.
And what Wikipedia said that this site contains some 70 to 80% false reporting.
So that means 20 to 30% true reporting.
20 to 30%.
That's right.
True. So if you can weed through those, which it's easy, like Sean said, if they're talking about a flat piece of land with no tree cover, you're not going to find Bigfoot out there. He's going to be in the mountains. He's going to be up north near water and vegetation. If you've ever been to Las Cruces, Elephant Butte, or El Paso in the summer, that brother would be dead. They would find Bigfoot fried in the desert, and he'd smell like a freaking batch of chicharrones because he would just be baking out there. Yeah,
Bigfoot
that would
chicharrones.
be chicharrones. But either way, you're not going to find him in the middle of the desert. So again, people, hit us up. We're not joking about this. We're not just a couple guys that like talking about Bigfoot. We're going to get out there. The weather is getting better, and this is usually the time of year when people start seeing things like that. So stay tuned.
Yeah, that's right. We'll find him. We'll be the ones, Bo. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Sean and Bo Show. We would like to remind you to subscribe on iTunes, and please tell a couple of friends about the show. We'd really appreciate that. So for myself and Bo Greer, tip your pizza man.